The church doors slammed open with a thunderous crash that echoed through the sacred hall. Every head turned as a woman in a flowing white dress stormed down the aisle, her eyes blazing with fury. "Stop this wedding!" she screamed, her voice cutting through the stunned silence like a knife. I stood frozen at the altar in my own wedding dress, my bouquet trembling in my hands as I watched this stranger march toward us. My heart hammered against my ribs. Who was she? What was happening? David, my soon-to-be husband, went white as a sheet. His jaw dropped and I saw something I'd never seen before, pure terror in his eyes. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The woman, Sarah, stopped just feet from us, her chest heaving with rage. "Did you really think you could just replace me?" Her laugh was bitter and sharp. "Did you think I was dead, David?" The guests erupted in confused murmurs. My mother gasped from the front row. But all I could do was stare at David, watching his face crumble with guilt. I can explain," he stammered, loosening his tie like it was choking him. "Explain." Sarah's voice rose to a shriek. "Explain how you're marrying another woman when you're still legally married to me?" The words hit me like a physical blow. Married? Still married? My knees nearly buckled as the truth crashed over me. The man I'd been planning to spend my life with was already someone's husband. I turned to David, my eyes filling with tears of rage and betrayal. "Is this true?" His silence was answer enough. The humiliation burned through my veins like poison. 300 guests staring at me. The fool who didn't know her fiancé was already married. I could hear whispers spreading like wildfire behind me. "How could you do this to me?" I whispered, my voice breaking. But before David could answer, the priest stepped forward, his face grave and his voice carrying the weight of divine authority. "Everyone, please remain calm," Father Martinez said, his weathered hands raised. But his eyes were fixed on David with an intensity that made everyone fall silent. "Young man, I need you to understand something very important." David swallowed hard, sweat beading on his forehead. Father Martinez had been our family priest for over 30 years. He'd baptized me, confirmed me, and now he was about to destroy the man who'd betrayed me. "I've been ministering in this community for 4 decades, the priest continued, his voice steady but filled with righteous anger. "And in all that time, I have never encountered such blatant deception in the house of God." The church was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. "You see, David," Father Martinez said, stepping closer, "when you asked me to marry you and Sarah here, you brought me your marriage license. You filled out all the paperwork. You made your vows before God and this community." Sarah nodded frantically. "That's right. We were married 2 years ago in this very church." My world tilted. 2 years ago? While David was dating me. But Father Martinez wasn't finished. His next words came like thunder. "But what you don't know, David, is that your marriage to Sarah was never legally binding." Everyone froze. Even Sarah stopped mid-breath. "You see, I discovered something troubling when I was preparing for today's ceremony. When I pulled your file to transfer your records, I found that the marriage certificate from 2 years ago was never properly filed with the county clerk's office." David's face went from white to green. "What? What are you saying?" "I'm saying that due to a clerical error, one that I take full responsibility for, your marriage to Sarah was never legally recognized. In the eyes of the law, you were never actually married to her." Sarah's scream pierced the air. "No. That's impossible. We had a ceremony. We had rings." "A ceremony without legal documentation is just a performance, my dear," Father Martinez said gently but firmly. "You lived as husband and wife, but you were never legally bound." The revelation hit like a bomb. David staggered backward, his hand gripping the altar rail for support. "But that means," he began. "That means," Father Martinez continued, "that while you weren't legally married to Sarah, you still deceived this woman." He gestured to me. "You led 2 women to believe they were your one true love. You lived a double life, rotating between 2 homes, 2 relationships, 2 sets of promises." The confrontation I'd been dreading became something else entirely, a moment of complete exposure. David's shoulders shook as the weight of his deception crashed down on him. I thought if Sarah and I weren't really married, then maybe you could just, what? Pretend she didn't exist. I found my voice again, stronger now. Maybe you could marry me and hope your not-wife would just disappear? Sarah was crying now, her white dress wrinkled and stained with tears. You never told me about her, David. You said you were working late, traveling for business. He told me the same things, I said, looking at her with sympathy instead of hatred. We weren't enemies, we were both victims. Father Martinez raised his hand again. David, I need you to make a choice right now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Right now. Which woman will you commit to, knowing that whatever choice you make, you must be completely honest going forward? David looked between us, his face a mask of anguish and guilt. The man who'd seemed so confident, so sure of himself, was broken. I can't, he whispered. I can't choose. I've hurt you both so deeply. That's when I knew. I deserved better than a man who couldn't choose me without hesitation. I pulled off my engagement ring and placed it on the altar. Then I choose for both of us, David. I choose myself. Sarah watched me walk away, and after a moment, I heard her footsteps following mine. We left David standing alone at the altar, surrounded by hundreds of witnesses to his cowardice. Outside the church, Sarah and I sat on the steps in our white dresses, no longer rivals but survivors. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Me too, I replied. We both deserved better. As I watched David's family slowly file out of the church, avoiding eye contact with both of us, I realized something profound. Sometimes the most important vows we make aren't to another person, they're to ourselves. I vowed that day to never again accept love that came with conditions, secrets, or divided loyalty. The strongest love is the love that demands complete truth, and the courage to walk away when you don't receive it.